My name is Jean Louise Finch, though everyone calls me Scout. This story is set in Maycomb, Alabama, during the 1930s, a time when the Great Depression weighed heavily on everyone, and societal divisions were starkly defined. Maycomb was a small town where everyone knew each other, but beneath its seemingly tranquil surface lay deep-seated prejudices and injustices. My father, Atticus Finch, was a lawyer, a man of unwavering principles who believed deeply in justice and equality. He raised my brother Jem and me to value fairness, empathy, and integrity. Our family was completed by Calpurnia, our housekeeper, who was as much a guide and caregiver as any family member could be. Life in Maycomb seemed predictable, even mundane, until that fateful summer when everything began to change. That year, a boy named Dill came to stay with our neighbors, and together we spent our days imagining the world of Boo Radley, a reclusive man who had not left his house in years. Boo became an enigma for us, a figure shrouded in mystery and rumor. While our curiosity about Boo occupied our childhood games, another, far graver story began to unfold in the adult world. One day my father took on a case that would define not only his career but also our lives. He agreed to defend Tom Robinson, a black man accused of raping Mayella Ewell, a white woman. In Maycomb, this was more than just a legal case. It was a challenge to the very foundation of its social fabric. Atticus knew the truth. Tom was innocent. Mayella's accusations were a desperate attempt to conceal her shame and escape the abuse she suffered at the hands of her own father, Bob Ewell. By agreeing to defend Tom, my father stood alone against the town's deeply rooted racism, and we became the targets of its scorn. The trial was a spectacle. The courthouse overflowed with people, their faces filled with anticipation, prejudice, or mere curiosity. I sat in the balcony with Jem and Calpurnia, watching as my father meticulously dismantled the prosecution's case. He showed how the evidence pointed not to Tom's guilt, but to Mayella's attempt to cover up her father's violence. Yet, despite the clarity of the truth, the all-white jury returned a guilty verdict. I could see the defeat in my father's eyes, though his resolve never wavered. The verdict shattered my belief in the fairness of the world. It was my first taste of the harsh reality of systemic injustice. Not long after, Tom was killed while trying to escape from prison. News of his death was another blow, a stark reminder of the fragility of hope in the face of prejudice. But our trials were far from over. Bob Ewell, humiliated by the trial, sought revenge. His hatred culminated in a cowardly attack one dark night as Jem and I walked home from a school event. He emerged from the shadows, his rage aimed at us. In that moment, it wasn't the law, but an unexpected savior who came to our rescue. Boo Radley. Boo's intervention saved our lives. He fought off Bob Ewell, who died in the struggle. For years, we had feared Boo as some kind of ghostly figure, a shadow on the edge of our imagination. But that night, we saw the truth. Boo was no monster. He was a kind, reclusive man, quietly watching over us all along. Sheriff Heck Tate decided to protect Boo by reporting Bob Ewell's death as an accident. It was a rare moment of justice in an unjust world. Through these events, I learned some of the most profound lessons of my life. I realized how deeply prejudice can wound and blind people, but also how courage and empathy can illuminate even the darkest paths. My father once told me, "It's a sin to kill a mockingbird because mockingbirds harm no one. They only bring beauty into the world." I came to understand that Tom and Boo were like those mockingbirds, punished for no reason other than the ignorance and cruelty of others. This story is not just about a trial or an attack. It's about growing up in a world where right and wrong are not always clear, where innocence can be destroyed by hate, and where bravery sometimes means standing alone. My father, Atticus, taught me that fighting for what's right is not always easy, but it is always necessary. And now I ask you, in the face of such injustice, what would you do?